Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walsh. Thank you so much for joining us here today on Newsflash. On today's show, Davos in the desert looks like it just got a sandstorm coming through. Saudi Arabia's big future investment initiative conference being interrupted by a grisly accusation of murder from the Saudi Arabian government. Is General James Mattis in trouble? The comments made by Trump this morning are raising some questions. Doesn't matter. Jared Kushner may be in trouble for his taxes, paying little to none for years, in income taxes, that is. Beto O'Rourke is tripling Ted Cruz's fundraising in Texas Senate race. Also, suburban men turning to Trump, Medicare for all, Michael Bloomberg, and Saturday Night Live. We'll get to all those if we can today, because I did kind of load us up with a lot. And when I say us, we have David Langan. David, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks, Spencer, for having me.
All right, we got a lot of stuff to get into. First, starting with Davos in the desert, which captures the lofty ambition of the annual investor conference scheduled to convene in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia this month. Everyone's investing in the Saudi Arabian government program. I think it's called Vision 2030. Which is a dream by the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to modernize Saudi Arabia and kind of wean it off its wealth of reliance on oil. Like, everyone's supposed to be there, like, from America, like top reporters like Maria Bartiromo, a guy like Andrew Ross Sorkin from the New York Times, like pretty much these reporters who are also like big power players in like the financial business as well, who like do a little bit more than reporting. But that is all been stained now by this allegation that Saudi Arabia has pretty much murdered and dismembered the body of a Washington Post contributor who wrote opinion pieces that were very critical to the regime. David, what is your reaction to this news?
No, it's a minefield for everyone, from businesses to other regimes in the region. This is going to upset what has become an established order in a number of ways. One is the future investment into Saudi Arabia. The 2030 initiative is a big bet on the part of the Saudis. And then you've got military, political, and terrorism concerns. It seems the only people making out on this are the Iranians.
Well, they would probably benefit from mistrust of Saudi Arabia because they are so mistrusted by American conservatives who are in power. So that's definitely going to probably help them a lot. It's a big Ritz-Carlton hall. That's where they're having it right now. It definitely is a little bit. And the question is, and a lot of these people have pulled out. Some major people, not really the conservative side of things, but like people like someone from CNN, I believe, pulled out, like New York Times. They're not going to be speaking at this thing, and it's just kind of a lot of Americans, a lot of American elites who have shown very close ties to the prince over the past few years. Like they're now pulling out. Like, what should the U.S. reaction to this be?
I think the U.S. reaction should be exactly what the president's reaction has been so far. He doesn't want to. You can't slam the door. We are.
Looks like we have a little bit. Just kind of the Skype is breaking off here. He may come back in at any moment, pretty much. Yeah. All right, so yeah, we just had a little bit of a break in the line there for a few, but yeah, pretty much the question was like, what should the U.S. do? How should the U.S. be reacting to this infraction by Saudi Arabia?
I think you'd have to react the way the president is reacting. I mean, he's in a box. He really is. They're an ally in the war on terror. They're quietly cooperating with Israel in the region. They're a huge oil supplier to the world, although we compete very heavily in that business now. But the sustainability of that regime is, unfortunately, it's important, I think, our our national defense and our own influence in the region.
So it would just be like what do you think like only words are appropriate, or like because we have to have a cooperative ally that'll be like they have to respect us and they have to like realize that we are providing them a lot of what they need in terms of weapons, in terms of like a sense of security and like trading with them. Like we have to have them kind of respect us and not just kill our journalists.
No, I agree. You know, the journalist they supposedly killed. You know, yes, he's works for an American paper, but he's a fairly controversial guy as well. He advocated a lot of positions that would be in opposition to Western values in his life. But be that as it may, they still murdered a guy who works for an American paper. Yeah. And I think the fact that he is a prominent journalist makes a huge difference. There's going to have to be something that looks like a tangible sanction, but I don't know that it's in the long term. I don't think it's in anyone's interest to have it affect the long-term relationship we have with the Saudis, and that's unfortunate because it's horrific, it's heinous, it's barbaric, and it's everything that's counter to the 2030 notion. But it's just the way it is. You can't change political facts on the ground, especially in the Middle East region. It's impossible. And also the Saudis, and there's no coincidence there that they are also opposing one another for dominance in the region along with Iran. It's a giant triangle, and right now Iran's the winner.
Yeah, I mean Iran though, like we are doing the best. You have to admit that we are doing the best that we possibly can to like stifle them with our pulling into the Iran nuclear deal and just like. Slapping more sanctions on them. Like they are not headed for a particularly prosperous future, at least while the Trump administration is in power. There's no doubt about that. But like, yeah, it's very interesting to see how this has kind of been interrupted, and the fact that like, I think it's definitely really beneficial that we kind of rethink the relationship that we have with Saudi Arabia, because we seem to be trading with them, and we seem to be doing things. For example, like especially what comes to mind is with Saudi Arabia is A, the arms sales, and B, the activities that we do in Yemen with
yes, I agree. That is a particularly sticky situation. I think if people in our country knew a little bit more about that, there'd be a bigger outcry over the murder of this journalist, supposed murder of the journalist. But again, I mean, you just brought up one more illustration of how complicated this relationship really is.
Yeah, definitely. It's just like you don't really. And a lot of the relationships in the Middle East are actually quite complicated. To deal with, but it just kind of comes down to the simple thing. I mean, you're probably gonna have to have a sanction in there somewhere or another, but there is kind of a tough situation that puts like American elites in, because they have put so much of their store in this guy, and you kind of expect that nothing's. I'd personally be surprised if there's really any major sanctions put down, because just they're not going to go out there and damage their investment. And will the American people get too worked up about it? I mean, no. Something tells me they kind of have bigger concerns.
It's not a front burner issue. It's not a big concern of an average person. I mean, it doesn't affect daily life. It doesn't affect, whether you get a raise or you get a job. So,
you just don't ever really think that anyone's
bigger problems, but that's it.
You just don't think anyone's ever heard of him, like, already. Like, I mean, I certainly haven't heard of him before he supposedly got murdered, but it just kind of shows you, like, that's with a lot of things that people can get worked up over, and it definitely is very disturbing, though. There's no doubt about that.
I agree 100%. I mean, if you're trying to modernize a country, murdering your political opposition isn't the way to gain acceptance on a global stage. Just not.
Yeah, like, that's just very, very worrying to me. That that's their mindset is. I just really want to have, like, an explanation, like, why would they ever want to do that?
I don't pretend to know a lot about this, but there's a lot of bad blood. Khashoggi used to be a consultant to businesses and other government officials in Saudi Arabia. They offered him a job, which he refused recently. They were just trying to quell his agitation. And who knows what happened? I mean, if you believe the Turks, this was done on behest of the Crown Prince himself. I got to take that with a grain of salt too, though. Considering where we've been with Turkey over the last year, as in our relationship, who knows what the truth is? I mean, clearly the guy's missing. Clearly there was some foul play. Who's telling the truth? Who knows?
Yeah, it definitely seems to be worth an kind of investigation for a mystery story that, like, it'd be very funny to get to the bottom of that. Like, you always know it's a little suspicious when they say, "Oh, look, he left," and they reverse he actually ended up leaving the compound, and they reverse the footage of him walking in the compound. Like, it was very like, that's, something's not right there. If you feel the need to do that, and not even change the timestamps, which is like,
I know, clearly something is going on. Now, who knows? This may be a political message to other dissident Saudis. Who knows what game the Saudis are actually playing? It's a bit of a hermit style government. They don't have to account to anyone, and which was part of the problem. The journalist was holding them to account.
Yeah, and that, like, having the people, when you're really trying to stamp out all support, like, you're trying to build you're trying to build freedoms, and you're trying to build make it more sustainable, like, modernized society, but then you gotta give the people the rights to go with it, and just, it doesn't really seem that Saudi Arabia is really willing to at least do that yet, yes, to a broad way with everyone. So, speaking of foreign policy, President Trump suggested today that Defense Secretary James Mattis may be among the next high-level cabinet officials to step down, calling the general a good guy, but sort of a Democrat. He still says he has a very good relationship with the defense chief, but it could be that he would depart from the administration. I mean, is this kind of an offhand comment, or is this, like, something more to be serious about? Like, if Mattis resigns, I think it'll be very interesting. Like, I don't really have a particular attachment to Mattis, but, like, it's going to be very interesting to see if he does. Like, the thing to watch would be who he replaces with him with. Like, we kind of know Mattis, and I just don't think that it would be very good, at least for me, to see him try and go through another and put forth, like, another John Bolton-esque character.
Yeah, well, honestly, I think you're going to have to see how the midterms come out first.
Yes. I'll get that later in the show.
Right. I mean, but all these things in this administration, more so than others, are intertwined, right? I do, Mattis he's a military guy. He just, he does his job. He does what he thinks he should be doing, and he does it the best way. I can't imagine that he's, showing up late for work, and he's disrespecting